Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, personally, one of my favorite topics is kind of outside of business. It's the personal, physical health side of things. If you don't have physical, mental, emotional health, you will not have a business for very long. And we're going to talk about just that from someone who, I promise you, if you're watching this episode, you will be shocked to learn my guest's age today, because I was before we started recording. I'm very excited for this episode. John Brink, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks, Brandon. Nice to be on your show.
So we're talking about how to live young, right? You can share your age if you want to. I think it's an impressive feat, but tell me, where did this all start for you? This topic of really living healthy and living young.
Yeah, so I will be 84 in 3 months from now, and November the 1st, actually. And everybody gets a shock in life at some point where all of a sudden something happens that makes you realize that you have to kind of look at what you're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally, all those things around you. And for me, that was in 2008 when I got a case of diverticulitis that breached my colon, which meant that within 48 hours I had to have it fixed. Otherwise, it could be very, very serious. It affects all your organs and healthy organs. And so I came that close, to not making it. And then from up to that point, what I had done, what most people do, is at the end of the year, you make these commitments. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, and I'm going to buy a membership to the gym. And and then 2 weeks later, you find 100 reasons as why you're too busy to go to the gym. And so for me, it meant that at that point, now nearly 15 years ago, I had to take it more serious in terms of my wife is vegetarian, and I didn't listen I was okay, but I didn't listen quite as well as I should. I do now, though, and I'm a vegan. And so I started to get myself a trainer and started in a serious way training, going to the gym and staying physically active. Look at my diet, mainly plant-based, and start looking at those important parts of life and how vulnerable it all is if you're not doing the right thing. And your body is very forgiving, but only up to a certain extent. And if you don't work with it, then at some point it's going to throw in the towel and say, hey, this is the way you want to live. That's for you, how you will live. And so after about being in the gym for about 6 years in a serious way, and somebody came up to us, my trainer and myself, and say, have you ever thought about competing? And I said, competing? Me? And he said, yeah. And so I started looking at that. I liked that. And I started working on competing and started competing bodybuilding and physique in Northern British Columbia. Came in second bodybuilding, third in physique. That placed me for the provincials. Came in third physique, second bodybuilding, and that qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. And well into my late 70s already then. And then obviously COVID came, that changed everything in our world all the way around, and including not being able to go to the gym. And now I'm again going to the gym and getting ready for the Arnolds in 2025. And as I already showed you earlier, I just finished writing a book about living young, dying old. And that's a picture of me on the cover there. I'm now the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America. And I'm going to go to the Arnolds. I tried to get Arnold on my podcast, And I've asked him several times, but he's still not showing up. But I will get him here, and I say to him, I'll be back.
I love it. It's an incredible story, but it's for me, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. When by the time this episode goes live, we will be weeks, if not days, away from the election here in the United States, and a huge topic of it is our health, our physical health, our mental health, our ability to actually do any job, let alone the most important job in the country, at actually younger than you. You look better than both of the candidates who are, well, I don't know who's currently running, but at this very point, at the recording of this episode, you look physically and mentally better than both of the candidates. The argument that we have in this country, or the philosophy, is that once we get to 62, 65, we pack our bags, we ship it off to the nursing home, we retire. We're talking to a audience of entrepreneurs here. I mean, where do you start from where someone is today listening, no matter their age, if they want to look like you and think like you when they get to your age in their mid 80s and still run a thriving business, where do we have to start to get there?
First, be aware of that your body extremely forgiving, but you have to think about sunshine, sleep, diet, exercise, friends, which means social interaction, being active in a group. And those things are important to me. And that does not mean that you have to become an Olympian or a bodybuilder, but at least start with exercise. Even if you go walk every day for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and keep doing that. And then gradually you will start feeling better mentally, physically, and then at the same time stay active, socially active, in terms of don't get stuck to the TVs, but do other things, like in my case, very active in podcasting and doing all kinds of other things, public speaking, writing books. All of those things are very, very active. It keeps your mind active, and at the same time, diet to me is important. So I'm mainly plant based. Amazingly, I do all the shopping for my wife and myself, and if I go to a store, I go to the outside of the store where the healthy foods are, not the center lines where uh, uh, the prepared and I don't know what is all in it kind of foods are. So I stay away from that. And then at the same time, in my case, I go training. And then the other part that I do, Brandon, is I usually get up at 5:30 every morning. I always make my bed. I always think I'm late, and then I enjoy the day. And obviously I'm very, very active, do a lot of things, and I love it.
Yeah, that's good advice right there. I love how everything comes back to diet and exercise, which is no surprise at all. That's what we should be doing anyway. But we always put these things off, thinking there's some later date where you can get to it. What did your life look like, diet and exercise wise, pre 2008, before you had diverticulitis? Like, where were you physically?
Well, I was overweight, and I was not eating as healthy as I could have. And obviously, my wife, I was a benefit. She's very proactive in understanding, health and fitness, and so. But I was not healthy, and I was physically not as active as I should be and could be, and so it changed everything then. And so. Now today, especially if I listen to television lines, and North America is all in a lot of ways one be very similar than our friends in the U.S. are, and be watching each other uh, primarily from here, the U.S. likely, and hearing the thing about the elections. And there are two candidates running, I believe, in the two different groups, and I'm not really getting involved in politics in the U.S., but I know the one is 79 and the other is 81, and they are saying at least the one is too old and the other one appears not to be. And I'm what are you telling me? 79, 81. To me, they are both fitting in the category. If you, they should not have to be. I say age, and that's the point that I'm making, should be no issue. Let the other things be the issue. And what I have over many others is experience. And then, the I've seen it all, I've done it all, and obviously I've been quite successful in all my companies that I have, about 10 of them. And then I write books. I have written four. I'm working on two other ones. One comes out next April, one other one, in September. And then 2025, I'm obviously working towards the Arnolds in 2025. And then, so that's kind of what I do.
I'm curious about that too, because it sounds like, particularly right now, you have things you're working towards, books coming out in the future, you're competing in the future. How much of that was present over the course of your life and your career, that you had something you were working towards that kept you motivated? Because on the flip side of that, I talk to a lot of people, clients, and just people in general, that they just wake up and go about their day. They're not working towards anything. What's been the benefit of that for you?
From a very early age, Brandon, I always had looking forward as to what I wanted to do. I was born in November the 1st, 1940, just at the war already had started for a while in Europe, and we were living on our own in northeastern Holland. My dad was called into the Dutch army. The last time we heard from him, he was caught in Rotterdam when they bombed it, and they, for 5 years, wouldn't know if he was dead or alive. So things were difficult, tough. And even as little kids, I still remember 3.5 years old, hundreds of bombers overhead, Allied bombers that were bombing the German infrastructure. And then, so I remember that. Hundreds, the sound is something you will never, ever forget. And then at the same time, what we did is the winter of 1944-45 was called the Hunger Winter, and it was the coldest winter on record in Holland. And a lot of vulnerable individuals, young people and older ones, died. And it was the kids, then 4.5, 5 years old, and my brother, my sister, who were 1 and 2 years older than me. We would take our gunny bags and walk into the railroad yards, pick up anything edible and burnable. And we did that every day. The reason that we did as kids, because the Germans wouldn't shoot us, they would boot us one. The next day we'd be back. We were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945. And it made such an impression on me that I always knew from that point forward I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. And I wanted to go when I was 17, and my parents wouldn't let me then. Then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force, and then worked in the lumber industry in Holland for a period. And then I finally went to Canada when I was 23. And so started with nothing. Couldn't speak the language, didn't know soul, didn't have a job. And I knew I wanted to go to British Columbia. And that gets to your question of planning ahead, and what was your plan when you came here? I wanted to start with nothing. I've been at no contacts. I had to find where is the lumber or the timber. It's in British Columbia. And so when I landed in Montreal, took the train across Canada, and arrived in Vancouver, went to the immigration department. Fortunately, there was a German fellow. I could speak some German, not English. I told him what I wanted to do. He said, go to Prince George, British Columbia, 500 miles north of Vancouver. That's where all the opportunities are, boomtown. So I arrived here in July of 1965 with the dream of building a lumber mill. And I couldn't speak language, didn't know soul, didn't have a job. Started as a cleanout man. And when I came off the bus, I had my suitcase, three books, two sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least three times. I had exactly $25.47. But what I had lots of is attitude. I always avoid the negative. Passion, whatever I do, I give it 120%. Work ethic, I work harder than anybody. And even still now, at nearly 84, as I said earlier, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm a go-go guy. So that's what I do. And I look at my businesses. another advantage, and this comes somewhat to the question that you asked. The advantage that I have over a lot of people by I've been successful not only in my business but also in other associations of any groups and on boards of directors that I've been on is I'm a visionary. That's what I do. I can look 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead. That's what I've always done. And that's what makes me valuable to my own business, but also in terms of where do we go? What does it look like? And age and that's why the book Living Young Dying Old, the reason that I wrote it, because age is just a number. It is nothing to do with what he is able to do. And for me, I gladly come on CNN and talk to Anderson Cooper and all of those guys that talk nothing about other than he is too old and he's too this and too that. Hey guys, bring her on your show and let's talk about the things that you do, and let's talk about age and all the other things and what is really really important. And what is really important is obviously age is important, but it is attitude, and it is having the vision and looking forward. And the and that to me has been a big advantage.
Yeah, it's so powerful personally, like in your personal life and in business too. It's a way to unify your team, and for yourself, it's a way to drive yourself forward and continually be propelled by your vision. So I love that. That's a fantastic advice. I wish more people heard it, and I wish more people did it so they could live young, right? Die old. I love the message, John. This has been fantastic. Where can people go to learn more about you and your books?
johnabrink.com. Everything is on there. And then my podcast is On the Brink with John A. Brink. And, so we are very, very active around the world.
That's awesome. And maybe by the time this comes out, you'll get Arnold on the podcast. We'll see. But that link is down in the show notes down below. So you can, wherever you're watching or listening, you can go click on over, check out John's books and his podcast. John, I appreciate you being here, but I want to ask one final question. What is the most important thing for you that the listener takes away from this episode? If they think of nothing else, if they remember nothing else about you and never go to your website, what's one piece of, whether it's mindset or activity, that you want them to continue to remember?
Attitude, passion, work ethic, and then understand your body. It is immensely forgiving, but treat it kindly and have diet, sleep, exercise, is critically important. And age is just a number. I'm going to be 120.
That's amazing. We'll have you back in a few years for we'll celebrate your 90th and then your 100th.
I love it. Thanks, Brandon.
I love it. Thank you for being here. For those of you watching and listening, wherever you are, I love this. This is fantastic. And I said it in the beginning, you don't have a business if you don't have physical and mental health. So please prioritize it. That's why we have these episodes on this show. Go check out johnabrink.com for all of John's resources. Go listen to his podcast. This has been awesome. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch.